I'm Drew,
And I'm Tony.
and this is Back for Our Future, the show that goes back to talk about our past and yours. Tony, how are you?
Doing well, buddy. Look at this.
Oh my God.
Back.
It's back. It's back, baby.
Back. The annual toy drive. And it's back, buddy. Still not given away. Nobody wants it. Here it is.
For those just listening, Tony is holding up what I would call, what my kids would call, vintage headphones. And we would call those vintage headphones where we're from. And they're
Call
the kind with the little fluffy balls that go in over your ears.
Yeah. Call it vintage junk in 2025.
But think about this: the modern iPhone can't even take a freaking headphone jack. You have to get an adapter now, so you can't even. Yeah, yeah.
No, I mean you could only use those for like a Walkman or maybe even a Discman, something like that, you know?
I just took a drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too funny.
Yeah. I mean that's what it is. So
Yeah, it's great. I love the toy drive. It's awesome that your family does that.
yeah, no, they're still there, and it's a running gag now, and probably be there next year if we're still around. So we'll see what happens.
Well, we ain't running out of movies anytime soon because guess what? They keep making them.
They keep making movies, which is good. We want that.
Yeah, it is. Yes, we talk about movies in a chronological order. We've started in the 90s. We're still in the 90s. We'll be in the 90s for a while, folks. Sit down, strap in, and hold on. I will say real quick from a modern movie perspective, I know you saw it. I finally got to go see the new Predator movie. That's a movie you and I enjoyed Predator 2 more than we were probably the only two people that really loved Predator 2 a good bit. And I like this one as much as Predator 2.
Yeah, I saw it with my brother, and I went to go see it. And he really loved it, and I loved it, and I thought it was marvelous, quite honestly. Um,
Yeah, dude, it's solid.
yeah, it's got a lot of great characters as well. Besides
Which
just Predator and her, you know. So
which fans of the show should know Tony loves a great character, and usually they're animated and usually they're smaller guys.
yeah, yeah, this one's got it. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah, I saw that. I saw Running Man,
How was
uh,
that?
which was great. It's really cool. It's not as good as the source material, of course, but I have one gripe about the movie, but I'm not gonna ruin anything here. So, but you know, it has
We'll
to do.
get to it in 7 years. We'll get to that gripe in 7 years.
No, it's just the villains are different. They're just they villains are so great in the first one, and these are kind of nondescript guys he's fighting. So that's the only thing. But good movie. Saw Now You See Me, Now You Don't, which is excellent. Check that one out
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
for sure.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff out there. Get to the theater this for Thanksgiving and for Christmas.
So it's funny because we have a show that started, and we've talked about this before. We started this podcast talking about a theater that we loved. It was our childhood theater, not our childhood, but our coming of age theater, and it's in shambles. And I still drive by it from time to time. And it's still there, still in shambles. Nothing's changed. But it's important to note that we still go, especially Tony, but we still go see movies, like the love of movies, and even our esteemed guest, Sir Richard, still goes to see movies when he can. So it's still something that that fans of the show and then people on the show, you should still always consider going. It's easy to watch stuff at home, but it really is a bet. I went by myself to Predator because I had a Saturday afternoon off. I got a
Yeah,
giant tub of popcorn and I ate that entire thing before the movie started. It didn't even matter. 1,200 calories. I don't even care. Let's go.
that's all right. It's
It's
all
all
right.
right.
Get the butter.
I don't get butter on it. No, because I'm lactose intolerant. So I
All right.
learned this in a couple of movies. Yeah, when I'd be gone for 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. I don't get the butter anyway. My mom likes the butter though. My mom and my brother like butter. I don't eat the butter usually.
Can't do the butter. Well, on this episode of the show, we've got some movies. That's all I got to say. There's a list of movies in here, and
That's a pile.
dude, it's a pile, and some of them, Some of them are legendary. There's great stories. Some of
Yeah.
them, are movies.
Well, it's November 1994.
Yeah. So let's kick it off. So this movie is a movie. It was made. I don't hate it. I don't remember it. But it was based on a very popular video game. Ladies and gentlemen, November 4th, 1994, we get Double Dragon.
Yeah. So this is actually a movie that I took my brother to back in 1994. He was about 8 years old, and we did like a little brothers movie day, and he had a blast. Double Dragon was a very popular Nintendo game at the time, and so it was something that him and I had played, and he was excited about getting to see the movie, and it was a fun movie. It's not like Mortal Kombat. It's not an R-rated film. It's very PG, and it's very much geared towards the kids for the most part. And it's a cool cast. You get a Robert Patrick's in there, and Mark Dacascos, and Scott Wolf, and Alyssa Milano, and all kinds of popular at the time in 1994. And yeah, I mean it's a fun movie. It's based off a video game. Some of those are good, some of those are bad, and this one's kind of in between.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. The best part, what I remember most about it is the brotherhood part of things. Like it is about brothers, and there's a brother, this brother relationship throughout the whole film. And it is what it is. I can't put it on a. I could put it on a list of like, hey, do you want to see the '90s, like in their ultimate glory list? But it's not something like I would say go back and watch. There's some other movies on this list that are fantastic that come out in November too that are worth a revisit if you haven't seen them in a while. But it's not a bad movie. I'm not trashing on it. I'm just saying it's not the strongest.
Yeah, no, it's a good. It's
Now,
a it's a fine movie. It's just it's fun stuff.
now that goes up against Frankenstein. Is that the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, or is this a different one? Okay, so this is the one that got really popular, right? Like, didn't this movie do fairly well?
It did fairly well. It's like a $45 million movie. It did about 112, um, and of course, it's directed by Kenneth Branagh, and starred Robert De Niro and Elena Bonham Carter and Aidan Quinn, John Cleese, and Tom Hulce. It's a very good cast. Of course, Kenneth Branagh as well. And it was originally supposed to be directed by Francis Ford Coppola as part of his monster movie, um, you know, trilogy that he was trying to do. But he had done Bram Stoker's Dracula, and of course he was going to do Mary Shelley's. But then he decided to go ahead and give it to Kenneth Branagh and then produce it. And of course, he would later regret that decision because him and Kenneth Branagh didn't exactly see eye to eye on set, and started a whole bunch of controversy between those guys. And yeah, I would have liked to have seen it done by Francis Ford Coppola, honestly, because obviously I'm such a huge fan of Bram Stoker's Dracula, but that's not what we got, and it's not a bad movie at all. It's not my favorite Frankenstein movie by any means.
Well, it's interesting. I would agree. I just watched a related to this. It took Francis Ford Coppola. I just watched a screener of a thing called Megadoc, which is a documentary that Mike Figgis filmed while they were making Megaopolis, and it's really if you have any curiosity about his process, Francis Ford Coppola's process, I wouldn't say this is the movie to tell you all that stuff, but it's an interesting look at a movie he made and his process of approach. He's such a filmmaker that when the modern system tries to make him be modern, it doesn't work. Frankenstein is a classic story which would have fit his narrative extremely well, and he would have done an absolutely brilliant job telling that still. That's why Dracula works so well, because his style of filmmaking goes into that kind of storytelling brilliantly. So,
Of course, Dracula. If you want to see the better movie, Dracula is the better movie of these two.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, then we get a movie called The War. Now, there's been a lot of movies called The War, and we know that my brain does not remember it. There could be one with Wesley Snipes that I've seen, but it's probably not that one.
Now, this is Kevin Costner and Elijah Wood in one of his first movies. Um, yeah, it's a hardcore drama, is what it is. And Kevin Costner, of course, was very popular back in the '90s, of course. And this is a movie that didn't do nearly as well. It's like a $34 million movie that did like 17 million at the box office. Very hardcore drama, directed by John Avnet, and it's about two warring families. Um, and of course, Kevin Costner is a Vietnam veteran who's got PTSD, and then something happens. There's an accident that happens to him, and then it's two families that kind of war over this treehouse, and everything that happens in between. So it's a deep subject movie without question. And John Avnet, of course, is famous for Fried Green Tomatoes.
Yep,
So the
love that movie. Yep.
Fried Green Tomatoes was his first directorial debut, and this is his second movie.
Is this
Movie not bad at all. Definitely hardcore drama. Definitely bring the tissues.
Yeah, I like I said, I now that you say it, I can see it in my brain, but I wouldn't have not remembered that off the top of my head. Though I just talked about Fried Green Tomatoes the other day and how great of a movie it is and how it's special to me and all this stuff. But that one I don't think I've ever seen it. I just remember the my time at Suncoast gave me a lot of looking back at old movies time
Oh
and
yeah,
sets it up.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's another one of those movies I saw. I saw this one at the Dollar Theater. Actually, That's where I see a lot of movies that kind. That's where I used to see a lot of movies that kind of would get by me at the in the first run theaters. I'd be like,
Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
I'm just going to see other stuff, and then I miss one, and then it goes to the Dollar Theater, and I catch it there.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm with you.
that was the great thing about the Dollar Theaters.
Now, we talk a lot on this show, and you and I have laughed a good bit, and I've laughed after the show at some of the revelations that have come through just from us doing this podcast together about counter programming and how hilarious some of it is. But this one might be one of my all-time favorite counter programming moments because on, no, on November 11th, you get two drastically different movies.
Yeah,
There couldn't be a further difference between between Interview with the Vampire and the Santa Claus.
you're right. And they both did. I mean, this is one of those situations where they're so different that they both did huge money. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it was like, so of course, Interview with the Vampire is Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt and Kirsten Dunst, and it's directed by Neil Jordan, and yeah, Antonio Banderas is in it, and Christian Slater, and all the fun people of the time. And
Oh yeah.
it's like a $60 million movie that made like 224 million, so a very popular um, movie based off an Anne Rice novel, and uh, it's as much. I love Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. It's not my favorite movie by those guys by any means. It's a good movie, and I love the look of it, and it's shot in New Orleans, so you kind of have that old that very spooky feel to it. But yeah, I know a lot of people who worked on this movie. A lot of people who worked on this movie.
Yeah, there's a bunch of interesting bits on this from my memory that I think are fun. One, this is the movie that every girl I knew, all of our friends, Catherine, all these girls that we were friends with in our little circle, they all loved it because it was all swoony over the hot dudes. And that made me hate it even more. So after this, I decided that there's nothing romantic about a vampire. I can't stand them. And I, for the longest time, would tell anybody, because I have friends that were very much into, quote, that culture. And so I would tell them if vampires were real, I would be Blade and I'd be cutting your head off. Like, that's what I would say. Like, I was like the Interview with the Vampire guy. But I also think it's interesting from another side of it, which is our business side, is that this is an example, and there's been a few of these movies. There's been movies shot in New Orleans because they wanted to film in New Orleans, but this movie needed to be filmed in New Orleans. It's not like the Marvel films that so many of them were shot in Atlanta because that's where the tax incentives were, and it was all. This was a conscious choice to film in New Orleans because of Anne Rice and her ties and all that stuff. But like, it was a conscious choice to film there. Did anyone that you worked with that has ties to this movie tell you any good stories from this one?
there's been stories over the course of time. I haven't. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's little tidbits here and there. I don't. There's nothing that jumps out at me that I'd have to tell here. I mean, I mean, I've worked with tons of guys who had worked on this. Some are still with us. Some have passed. But um, yeah. I mean, I mean, I did like 20 movies in New Orleans, so
Right. Right.
I've
You're gonna.
crossed tons of guys who worked on
Yeah.
these older movies. But yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of stories that I mean that I recall that are amazing. But I just know that they were just talking about different locations that they shot and things like that. We'd be at there certain places and be like, oh, over there we shot Interview with a Vampire and stuff like that. So
Well, it was popular because what I remember from it is a lot of our friend group and so some people know in this window somewhere in I don't know exact year the drinking age in New Orleans went from being 18 to 21 or something like that, and so somewhere in this range we had friends that would take a little trip ski over, but a lot of people I knew would go over there and they would kind of like the Astoria for the Goonies. People would go to New Orleans to see the locations because they loved the movie so much, and it was the locations are part of that movie. That's what I'm saying. Like it's such a New Orleans type film. It's an interesting thing.
yeah, this is the time frame too, and I'm hanging out with remember Gary? Remember our buddy Gary? Remember Gary? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Work up at Subway and stuff. Yeah, this is around the time that I'm we're kind of hanging around him too, which was he was an interesting guy.
oh yeah. I had some wild nights at his house there.
Yeah, he's a
I've
he's a
had
fun dude. But this is around that time frame when I'll go up to visit the Troy campus with him and things like that, and like get ready to gear up for college and graduation and stuff in the next year, and visiting campuses and stuff like that. And I went up and hung out with his family and had fun. Yeah, So yeah, this was a kind of a fun little time.
Yeah, for sure. I will say this to tee up where I'm going with it. One of these two movies is on at every Christmas, and it's not Interview with the Vampire. My family has watched the entire library of Santa Claus movies, starting with the first one, and they watch them in order every year, multiple times because they just turn on Christmas movies. Like it started about a week ago, and it's just Christmas movies all the way through Christmas. Like it's just nonstop. And the Santa Claus is one of those that pops up on the regular. And look, it's like the Goonies for me. It's one of those movies that it's on. I'll watch it. I love it. I watch it with the kids. We have a good time. It's a classic at this point. It is absolutely a holiday classic, and it is. You got to think, my kid. That's a few years ago. So my kids are like, my kids. They don't care about the fact that it's in the 90s, and they don't care that some stuff looks dated. To them, it's just an older movie. And it's one of those things. A classic will stand the test of time, and this is one of those movies. Believe it or not, I would argue is a timed true classic in that sense.
Tongue twister. So yeah, I mean, I saw this one at Carmike 10 with the parents, my brother. And I mean, it's a funny movie. It's really a funny movie. At its core, it's a really great comedy, and not just a Christmas movie, but just a funny movie to watch almost anytime. And it was immensely popular. Spawned a couple sequels. I mean, so nowadays you'd probably make this movie for about 90 million,
Yep.
somewhere in there, 90 to 100 million, and it was made for like $22 million, and it made almost 191 million or something like that. I mean, that's pretty stout. And yeah, it's a great Tim Allen movie, and he was immensely popular at the time because he was on Home Improvement, and Judge Reinhold's in it, and Wendy Crewson and Peter Boyle, and Peter Boyle's great. And yeah, I mean, it's just a fun Christmas movie, but it's also just a really funny comedy. And so if you just like to laugh, these are great films.
Absolutely. They're good. And look, they're fun. And you eventually if you watch the first one, it's great, and you eventually get Martin Short, and it's Martin Short. Like he's fantastic. Jack
Yeah.
Frost. He's
You you
he's
watched
my
the TV
boy.
show at all that came out recently?
I did not know.
Okay, that's there. I think it's on like Disney Plus or something like that now.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I'll see if the kids watched it. I didn't know. I didn't even know there was a TV show for it.
I think they did like a couple seasons. My buddy Kevin is a sound mixer, and he did that. He did that show.
Sick. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so he worked on that, and was talking about it. Would send me photos and things like that. So there's some stuff, but yeah, I mean it's kind of like this. It's basically picking up from the movies. So check it out. Yeah, for sure. That's even something you haven't even seen yet.
Yeah, for absolutely. So 1 week later, I would say this is again, we have counter programming. This was pretty big, but this is also like holiday movies coming out. Although this is not a holiday movie. I mean like holiday releases where they put out bigger movies. But we get like a crazy popular. At least in our circle, it was very popular, especially after film school. We get a classic remake, and then we get the first sequel in years with a new team, and I'll hit these up. So the first movie we've got is Leon the Professional.
Yeah,
Now,
it's a good movie.
this movie is Gary Oldman in this movie, bro. He
Yeah,
is a
it's great.
monster.
Yeah,
He's a monster.
he's great. I mean, Gary Oldman. This is like if you hadn't been watching Gary Oldman leading up into this movie, this is where you probably first really took notice of him. He's crazy amazing in this film. I mean, it's listen, this is a really good movie, and it launches some careers, and it also introduces people that they haven't seen to American audiences. You get Luc Besson, and you get Jean Reno, and you get Gary Oldman, of course, and we meet Natalie Portman for the first time, and Danny Aiello, and I mean, it's a really great cast made by an amazing writer director, and it's a pretty intense movie.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that sticks with you, and I think that's why, like, even after, we were grown, like that movie was still for 5-6 years after its release, it was still part of the lexicon of conversation, just because it was one of those movies where if someone hadn't seen it, it was like, oh, you haven't seen The Professional, and then we would sit down and watch it, right? And it was one of those movies that it hit at the right time, and it was one of those things that has the right vibe, as the kids say. But it is a pounder. It's a great movie. Yeah, a little bit heavy in spots, and
Oh, wait,
and in
Western.
today's world, it's even heavier in some spots, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's like a $16 million movie that made like 46 million, so it did well. And I remember watching it at Village Six because this is where these types of movies went. Village Six, the theater, to watch movies like this, and so that's where I got to see it, and that's one of the reasons I always loved the theatrical landscape in Mobile was that every theater was unique to what they were
Yeah.
showing for the most part, which I thought was neat. I know it's kind of like more of a segregation type of thing, but I kind of liked it, because it was just instead of going to each theater and they showed all the same stuff, you'd have to go into a different theater to see these types of films, and I enjoy that.
I do too. I think it's great. Now it's changed. Obviously, the modern cinema experience is like every movie, for the most part, is playing at every theater, unless it's like a special screening or some kind of little indie theater. But for the most part, almost every theater has the same stuff. And to Tony's point, in case those that don't remember your first time listening, Village Six was where we saw So Mary Axe Murder. We got 2 episodes dedicated to it, which sounds wild to people who don't get it. But for us, we've both stated that movie kind of set us on this trajectory of becoming professional filmmakers in some way, shape, or form because we loved that movie so much. It's not that it's almost like it was attainable, but it wouldn't have happened. That movie wouldn't have played in Mobile had we not had a chance to see it at Village Six. So it becomes a very important part of a landmark. And I think even having that space there is a big deal. Like having that when you say segregation, some of it was urban demographic versus non,
Some
but it was
was
also
always
so,
like that. I mean, so, yeah.
but it was also genre. Like the
Oh,
genre,
what?
some of these theaters were genre theaters, and the
Yeah,
segregation was actually of genre. And this
yeah.
is one of those instances where, The Professional has got a stellar cast all over the place, but it was one of those films where it lined up better than that. Now we juxtapose that with Miracle on 34th Street, which is a remake of the classic.
Yeah. I know people that you know enjoyed this one better than the original. I mean, I know a lot of people that are like that, quite honestly, and it did really well. It made like almost $50 million. And it was produced by John Hughes, so it's got a little bit of that John Hughes charm in it. And of course, he wrote the screen. He was one of the people instrumental in writing the screenplay for this as well. And directed by Les Mayfield, and of course stars Richard Attenborough and Elizabeth Perkins, Dylan McDermott, J.T. Walsh, James Remar, Mara Wilson, Robert Prosky. Great veteran cast. Um, it's just a fun. I mean, over the course of time, this has now become a classic, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
the original was a classic then, and now this has become a classic now. And you don't see the original nearly as much. This is the one you see now. So it's kind of we've gotten to that point now where since it's been out over 30 years, now this has become the classic film to watch at Christmas.
It's funny because my kids have not ever seen the original. They've only seen this one, and this is the one that they know. Like this is the classic version to them, right? And they haven't seen all the way back to the original black and white and that whole game. So this is the one that they know. And it look, that's a solid movie.
It
I'm
is.
not the world's biggest Christmas movie guy, not because I have any issues with Christmas or I don't like Christmas or whatever, or I'm not a Scrooge, but there are movies like the Santa Claus that I enjoy a little bit more. There's later on in life, there's a movie that comes out called Christmas with the Cranks, which is one of my all-time favorite holiday movies. I'm a sucker for arguing that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. So that, but for the classics, this is one of those where it's like this is the feel good. You know,
Right.
I don't know if they can ever remake it as good as they even this remake. I don't think they can remake the remake any better than they did here. So
Yeah.
it stands the
They'll
test
try
of
it.
time.
You know they will.
I'm sure it'll be on Netflix.
Shut up.
Trigger warning. And then that takes us to Star Trek Generations, and I listen. I grew up a Star Trek fan. Yeah, go ahead. We did.
Yeah.
Was Cooper with us when we saw
Yes.
this?
I was going to ask
Okay.
you who else came with us for this one.
Yeah.
That was what I was
Yeah.
going to ask when we got to this movie was, do you know who else came with us to this movie? And you do. Good for you.
Well, listen, I have it burned in my brain. So the street that we lived on, Tony lived across Diagonal 1 from my house. Next door to me was a family, and there was two kids that lived there. There was Cassie and Cooper. Cooper was the younger brother. Cooper and I had a fast friendship. I was like an older brother type to him, and we would he was young, so we would play like Star Trek in the driveway, and he loved Star Trek, and I did too. That one funny part about all of this is you guys have heard a theme on the show, which is that I've been grounded a lot in this age range. I spent a lot of time grounded. And at one point, I was allowed to watch 1 hour of TV a week. I think I've told this before. And what I chose to watch was Star Trek, Next Generation. I loved it. Still do, but I loved it. And when this movie came out, it was like, oh my God, we're going to get Star Trek, the original cast, and we're going to get the Next Generation. So Tony and I take Cooper. Cooper wears, on his own accord, before fans did this, Cooper wore his red Star Trek Next Generation shirt. It was like the full thing. He had, yeah.
Yeah.
And why I remember this is because I loved the kid so much. I really did. And when it gets to the, no, there's no spoilers in 1994 at this point, folks. When it gets to a scene where Kirk passes away, Cooper starts bawling. He starts crying his little eyes out. And I'll never forget just looking over at him and just being like, it's okay, buddy, because I knew that he loved those people so, like, it meant something to him. That is my, like, that's why I don't forget Cooper, is because I remember that moment with that little guy seeing that movie and him just like being so sad that Kirk passed away.
No, he's a good kid. He's a good kid. He's a sensitive kid, and so that really did get to him, which was neat to see because I do like to see emotions in movies.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of the point of why those scenes are shot. It's
Oh yeah.
supposed to evoke emotion, and it did. That's always nice to see. Yeah, it was. I mean, Star Trek Generations is great. We saw it at Carmike 10, which by the way is where I saw Miracle on 34th Street with my family, as well. It was Carmike 10, and we've seen a lot of tons of movies there. And this was one of those that we like went to immediately. We knew we all wanted to see it, and yeah, I mean, Star Trek Generations mixing up these casts was what everybody wanted to see at the time, without
Yep.
question. Yeah,
100%.
great. Now they have too many casts to mix up. I mean, it's not possible. It's almost it would be weird, and you don't even know who they all are these days because there's so many versions now. But
Oh yeah. Oh
then
yeah.
there was only a couple, and it was kind of fun to see this movie.
Yeah, it is. And look, if I'm not mistaken though, I think if and you might know this off the top of your head, if not, it's okay. But like I think that Generations is the highest grossing. It's either that or First Contact, but I think it's Generations is the highest grossing Star Trek of the later movies of the Next Generation series of films. I think it's the one that did the best.
Yeah, I mean,
And yeah.
yeah, they did pretty well. I mean, they all did pretty well. They were never like making like $400 million or anything like that. But I mean, this was a $35 million movie, which is a small number compared to what it would cost today to make this film. But $118 million is what it made.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty stout. I mean, again, Star Trek is one of those weird ones, right? Because like I always felt like Star Wars was for the masses. Star Wars was kind of made for the masses, right? And then Star Trek was kind of made for a more finite, smaller audience. That was really hardcore sci-fi. You know, Star Trek was more hardcore sci-fi. Star Wars is more built for the masses. And that's why those movies have all made like $1 billion. you know,
Right. It makes total sense. And I get it. It's just one of my. I'm always happy to see. Obviously, like for me as a sci-fi fan, the previous episode we talked about it in the previous month. Stargate comes out, which I still. They just announced that they're coming out with a new Stargate show. Actually, 14 years after the last one. So I'm a
mm-hmm.
Stargate fan. I still watch all the new Star Trek stuff. You can't see it, but next to me is a 3D printed Strange New Worlds little phaser. Because I got one of my employees to watch it because he fell in love with the show, and so I still, to this day, I'm still a Star Trek fan. And to have two bunts of just good science fiction is a big deal. And then there's a movie that comes out on November 23rd that is technically science fiction.
Yeah, it's they.
Yeah, there's so many jokes. There's so many jokes you can say right now, and I'm proud of you for censoring.
And not only that, not only have there been so many jokes in the landscape of just you know casual human interaction, but there's been so many jokes in movies about this movie, and
Absolutely.
and that movie's Junior, which was has like it's one of these movies, right? I mean, it has the talent all over the place, right? It's directed by Ivan Reitman. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito and Emma Thompson, Frank Langella and Pamela Reed, who I worked with, and yeah, I mean it was the follow up to Twins, which was a massive hit. It was I can't even explain how big of a hit Twins was. That movie was everywhere back in the 80s. It was huge. I mean, Twins was a huge movie and everybody was quoting it and it was huge back in the 80s. And this is kind of the follow-up, it's kind of the reunion of all these guys. And it's not Twins. I can tell you that. It's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, it's a funny movie in spots. It's just, you gotta. It's one of these movies you got to have a suspension of disbelief for sure when you're watching this movie. It's about a pregnant Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know.
Sorry,
So
that sentence. I was waiting. I was waiting for it. That sentence is so weird.
2025, it to some people it makes sense even now.
Sure, sure,
Yeah,
fair enough.
there's a finite group of people out there. This movie now makes sense to them. So there you go. It was a $60 million movie that made about 110 million, so it just wasn't nearly as big as Twins was, but didn't do bad. Did fine, and a lot of people have seen it because a lot of people talk about it to this day.
There's a lot of references. It is the reason I say obviously it's not sci-fi like space driven, but it is sci-fi in the sense that you have a Arnold Schwarzenegger having a baby. I mean, there's no more science fiction than that. Arnold Schwarzenegger pregnant. Anyway, weird movie. It's funny. It's definitely funny because you get the chemistry from those two from Twins, but just a really odd movie. I'll never forget the movie poster of it, but it is a bizarre movie. And then on the same day, a movie comes out that ends up being. I think this is a. I'm not for sure. My memory says that this is a Tony classic right here. But a movie comes out called A Low Down Dirty Shame,
Yeah,
and I feel like it becomes like a legend in some ways of because I don't remember if I saw it in the theater or not, but I've seen it and I remember that it became something that we talked about, and I think it's maybe because it was rated R, I imagine, right? This
yeah.
is like a yeah.
I mean, it's like I saw this movie with. I think it's like one of the last movies I ever saw with Jonathan Green.
Okay.
Or it's one of them. I can't remember. I'd have to look at what comes out after this to know for sure. But it's one of those movies, and it's directed by Keenan Ivory Wayans. It's written by Keenan Ivory Wayans, and of course, I was a huge. And we've talked about this before, but I am, and have been, and always will be a fan of the Wayans brothers and the Wayans family, not just the brothers, but the Wayans family in general. There's females in there too, and so yeah, I was always a big fan of these people because they just like to make people laugh, and so this one's not as spoofy. This one's not like as spoofy as this is like kind of a kind of a comedic shaft type movie. It's kind of what it's going for, and yeah, I mean it's a fun movie, and it's Keenan Ivory Wayans, and the cast is great. It's Charles S. Dutton, Jada Pinkett before she kind of really starts to blow up, and Andrew Divoff is in it as a villain. So it's kind of a cool cast, and it did it did fairly well, not too bad. It did like $30 million, and so yeah, I mean it's a fun movie. But if you're into the Wayans clan, and this is one you got to check out.
Yeah, it's fun. Again, I haven't seen it in quite a few years, but it's one of those ones where it's not like a scary movie type parody, but there's a underlying parody happening throughout the film, and it's good. Like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah, it's
And
like he doesn't cast a lot of his own family in this one. Like only Kim Wayans comes in and does like a little thing. Uh,
yeah,
it, so it doesn't have like Damon and Marlon and all those guys coming in here and doing bits. And which is what you get in all his spoof movies. Like all those guys pop up, every one of them. The entire Wayans family will pop up in all their other stuff, all over the place. But that's not what you get here. This is kind of There's this little couple of years where Keenan's trying to be a little more serious,
yeah,
and you get like this, and you get like the Glimmer Man, which is the movie he does with Steven Seagal,
yeah.
and so he's trying to become more of a serious actor in certain spots, and this is part of that catalog.
But see, that's my thing is I love his comedy too, but I really like his action. Like I liked him. I would have liked to have seen him have a career as an action type comedy guy. Like he would have crushed it. It would have been, like long standing. It would have been cool to have it long standing in that way. And like I said, I enjoy, like for whatever reason as a kid, I really liked some of the. I mean, is some I guess they're technically called blaxploitation films like Shaft and all that. I liked those as a kid. Like those were. I mean, they were a little adult for me, but I still enjoyed them. And it's because part of it is I like a lot of soul music. I love that vibe, and I still listen to a ton of soul today. And You just get that in this movie. You just get this like
Yeah.
waka chicka vibe, and I love that stuff. And so you get that sort of sensibility in a movie. It's fun. It's fun stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, it was a, it also had a decent soundtrack. We don't go over everybody, but it was like it ranked up in like the top 100 on Billboard and stuff like that. So it was, and it has a really nice like soul R&B type soundtrack as well. So yeah, it's a fun movie. I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it, and I know it wasn't the most popular of those films. I don't think the Rotten Tomatoes score is all that high, but who cares?
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes can eat their own tomatoes.
Go
I
go
hate Rotten
go play
Tomatoes.
Street with Netflix. You
Yeah, right. They can go be friends together in hell.
Go play on the interstate.
Yeah. That takes us to if I'm not mistaken, this is a Macaulay Culkin film.
This
Is that right?
Macaulay Culkin film. It's the Page Master, which kind of gets us back our Christmassy vibe. Yeah.
And does it? If I'm not, it's been a while since I've seen it. I just remember there's some animation elements, or it is animated, or there's some animation element to it somewhere in there.
So
But isn't
it's directed by two different people because there's live action and there's animation, and Joe Johnston does the live action and Maurice Hunt does the animation, and of course the cast is splendid. It's amazing, and it's Macaulay Culkin and Christopher Lloyd and Whoopi Goldberg and Patrick Stewart, Leonard Nimoy. For anyone who's not, this is kind of a Star Trek generation right there, and then Ed Begley Jr., Mel Harris. So it's a really cool cast, and yeah, I mean it's gonna act as one of the last movies that Macaulay Culkin's gonna put out.
right?
Because 1994 is the last year of big Macaulay Culkin. He'll pop up in a movie here or there later on when he gets older, but this is pretty much the end of his hardcore acting career. It's going to be this. He's in a month. He's going to release Richie Rich, which we'll get to on the next episode, and then he's done.
Yeah, and it's one of those things of like the kid was super talented. He's still super talented now, and he's a great dad, and all these I can say lots of nice things about him. He hit that unfortunate wall of like a lot of weird stuff in life that led him down a weird path, but he did create a library of fun movies, and this is definitely one of those. You can't take it away. It's not one of my favorite films. My kids have probably never seen it. It's not something that pops up all the time in our household, but it is, it's a good family movie. It's a good kids movie. So
Yeah.
and again, like Tony said, you get Patrick Stewart and Leonard Nimoy together. That's fun.
That's
That's
great.
super. In the same month, a week apart.
The same month, exactly. So you can't beat that. And then, it was a $34 million budget. It made like 14 million, so it kind of underperformed, and that's kind of underperforming at the box office will also get your career to kind of disappear, unfortunately, a little bit too. Richie Rich picks him back up a little bit, but then he just kind of disappears. The family life and things like that kind of cave in on him.
Yeah, I just was listening to a little segment. I forget who the director was, but he was talking about a movie he was going to make with Ben Affleck, and at the time Affleck had a couple of bombs and he was down. To your point about like box office ebb and flow, I forget which one it was, but Affleck was down, but he still really wanted him for this movie. And Steven Spielberg was producing, and Steven had an issue with Ben Affleck. Apparently, Ben Affleck threw his kid in the pool. There's a long story about it, but and it's not like an aggression thing, but it was like he did. Anyway, so Steven's like, no, you can't use Ben Affleck, but this director's like, I have to. It's like it's made for him. And there's this like whole nice little bit of dialogue, but then, it's right before Argo came out. So whenever that was, so right before Argo comes out, he's cold. Argo comes out, he gets an Oscar. He's the hottest guy in the world again. Like to your point, like that's how quick it can change in terms of the.
I tell people that all the time. I mean, nobody's at the top their whole career. That never happens. It's peaks and valleys in this industry, And if you're in it long enough, that's just the way it's going to be. I mean, there's times when I mean, you take a guy like Michael Keaton. I mean, Michael Keaton for a long time kind of disappeared a little bit and wasn't really doing a lot. And then he pops up and he's on all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's just it's kind of the way it is. I mean, a lot of times people take breaks from this industry too, because there's a lot. You're doing movies for weeks, months at a time, and sometimes that's a grind.
Speaking of Macaulay Culkin kind of reemerging, did you happen to watch the John Candy documentary?
I have seen the John Candy documentary.
When you were watching, did you notice there was a lot of onions in the room? Were there a lot of onions in the room that made your eyes water? Because that's what happened to mine.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of cut onions in the room as
Oh my god!
watching that movie. Yeah, I mean it's phenomenal. I mean for anybody who hasn't watched that yet, and you're allowed to watch it because it's on Amazon. Is it? Yeah, and so you're allowed to watch that. I'm allowed to watch that one, so that's good.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
happy. Man, if I can't watch that, that would stink. But yeah.
It's a good companion for the show and our love of John Candy. If you have a chance, it's worth watching. I hope Richard's seen it because I know he was a big Who's Harry Crumb fan. It's a call back to a previous episode if you guys haven't seen it. Let's move into another series of peaks and valleys, which is the album releases for November 1994. We've had some bangers come out. We've had a lot of really great records come out. I still think, and part of it's always going to be your generation's music, but like I still feel like to this day there's so many great records and so many great songs and so many songs that are still timeless from that era that it's a little wild. Like there's a lot of forgotten stuff that happens after that, but you look at the 90s and that some of those bands and those songs are still kicking. So what do we got? What happens in 94, November 94 for album releases?
Yeah, so let's run through some of these. And of course, one thing you got to remember is, we're in the age of the CD, right? And cassettes and still all that stuff. So we're still in the era where this stuff actually still makes great Christmas presents and stocking stuffers and things like that, right? So what used to happen in November is they would release compilations and things of that nature that would make you want to go buy these things for Christmas, and so that those would entice uh, consumers to go buy these items for Christmas to help the band. It was another way of releasing another album, essentially, and
Yeah.
and so we get a lot of that. So once we're in November here, we're getting a lot of that because we're setting up for Christmas, and so here we go. And the first one is Big Ones by Aerosmith, which was a compilation. But some of these do bigger than some of their albums because they have all the hits.
That's wild.
And
Right.
this was like I think this one just here went like 4 times platinum. And sold like over 4 million copies just in America.
That's crazy.
That's big, for a CD that basically has primarily, released stuff, stuff that
Yeah.
people
Oh yeah.
probably owned already. But it's not all on one CD at the time, right? These are basically like a way to get all the hits on one CD so you could play them back. This is, hey guys, this is before Spotify and before you're able to put together your own, playlists of all the music you want. And this was a way to not have to burn a CD or make a mixtape or something like that. You could just buy all your favorite songs on one CD. So that was kind of a cool way to do it. The Good, the Bad, and the Argyle by Bouncing Souls.
Good record.
That's a good record. And here's one that was really popular. I mean, back in the day, we had the Unplugged series from MTV, and that was all kind of a big thing. And this one was a big one too. MTV Unplugged in New York, Nirvana.
Oh wow! I didn't know this was then.
This was then, and
Wow.
and this was a huge, huge release because it's post Kurt Cobain. It's post Kurt Cobain passing away, and The Man Who Saved the World's on this, and that's a huge song. That'd be a huge song. It still gets played to this day. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
I still hear it all the
Yep.
time. It's one of the
You
reasons I
hear
did.
that one?
What's that?
You hear that one, and you hear the Meat Puppets cover.
And Meat Puppets cover. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you hear that one. Then you hear, um, they do they play. They still play all apologies from this as well.
Yep.
I would-
Yep.
I always like the electronic version of that better. But yeah, I mean, the unplugged stuff was kind of hit or miss for me. I was always like, I really liked the 10,000 Maniacs unplugged. I liked
Yep.
that. I
Same.
liked that. That one was kind of cool because I thought it kind of lent itself to that. I always wanted to hear the rock bands rock out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to hear Nirvana. I want to see them plug all their instruments in and be as heavy as possible. You know what I mean? Like, you know, coming around here in St. Louis here in the next month or so is going to be Seven Dust Unplugged. Like they're doing an
How's that
acoustic
work?
set, you know, and I'm sure
Yeah.
that'll be great. I'm sure that'll be fine, and I'm sure there'll be people that'll go to that. I have no interest in watching that. You know, I don't want to watch Seven Dust Unplugged. I want to watch them with their amps. I want them to plug in their instruments, and I want them to play as loud as possible because they're a rock band, and I want them to be in all their rock glory. And that's what I didn't like about these was because I already owned these songs in all their rock
Yep.
glory, and I really
But I
didn't want
will
to
say,
strip down.
no, I'm with you. I will say, I remember when this album, because none of us really were. I mean, we were all Nirvana fans, but I mean, none of us were really into this record, as Tony's saying. But what I do remember from this is like, this was like the latency that happened with Nirvana that was really fascinating was this album pushed it into, they were
Yeah,
already mainstream, but this pushed it into like top 40 mainstream. Like this is hitting the stupid
yeah, that's
slow
it.
jam. And it did. It blew them up in a completely different way. It's people who had never listened to Nirvana and were now listening to the Unplugged album. The guys I was in high school with who made fun of me for listening to Nirvana were now like really big into this because
Yeah,
in my high school, country was big and this kind of was country adjacent for them because it was acoustic. It was that. And it was weird, man. I just remember these guys, like all the douchey football players leaving and where they normally are blaring country, they'd be blaring specifically this album. Meanwhile, I'll be blaring the Nirvana actual plugged in album, and I'd be a weirdo. So
yeah.
it's that kind of thing. Like it was
No,
odd.
absolutely. It was very odd. It was like this was the album for like the jocks who hated the grunge people.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Great way to put it. Great way to put it.
So
I
yeah,
bet Dale Boyd, fan of the show, loved this album. He's a jock.
album. An Ohio State fan would love this album. Out in L.A., which is a Red Hot Chili Peppers compilation, and here's one. Here's one. Man, I love this album. I know this is not. I know you're not as big on this album. I know you're not as big on this band as I am. And but this is a good album though, man. 16 Stone by Bush. This album's awesome.
Tough for me.
So good,
I
man.
just, I know it's my wife's favorite band. In
Yeah,
fact, the other day in the car, they were, Sirius XM has Lithium. If you guys don't know, it's a great 90s station. Tony and I talk about it a lot, but on Lithium, they were playing. I was scrolling past him quickly and I saw it before she did. She's like, no, you got to stop. Gavin's hot. And I was like, all right, he's not hot anymore. I'm hotter.
I mean, this is a great debut album. I mean, it went over 6 times platinum in the States. Huge album. Bush, great band. I listen. I always liked Bush and the band Bush, and I always enjoyed them. And I know you're laughing. So I always enjoyed them. And then I worked with Gavin Rossdale on a movie in 2003, which was kind of after their super height of their band. But he's such a great guy, and he's such a nice dude. Him and I hung around so often. I was hanging around him and his bodyguard so often, and he's just the nicest, most humble, down to earth guy. It just gave me even a bigger respect for him, and that's he's not a pompous guy at all, man. He's just a really good dude. And of course, now, I mean, one of your favorite guitarists plays in this band, Chris Trainer. So,
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
you know, come to the dark
Look,
side.
my only
We're having
listen.
more fun over here. We're having more fun over here.
Here's why it won't happen is because shout out to Sean Silbernagel, wherever you are on this planet, Sean, who learned one guitar song in his entire life, and it was Glycerine. And he would play it in front of every girl. And Sean was a good looking dude, so he would pull all the girls over and he would play Glycerine. And so I will never, ever support him and his endeavors. Gavin's a nice guy.
Again, that's like, again, that's the one song that, like every song on this album, every song that they have outside of that song is a hard rock song. And then they have Glycerine, and that's of course the song that climbs the charts, and that's the song that every casual listens to. You know, all the casuals, who aren't into real rock music, listen to Glycerine, right?
Right,
And
right.
so, it's like being a fan of Crazy Town, and the only song you like is Butterfly. It's the only
That's
song
true.
you like because it went to number one on
It's
the charts, so everyone listened to it, but they don't know anything about the rest of the album. They know nothing about it. So it's all right. So then we get "Wildflowers" by Tom Petty, which is another huge album.
great.
It's great.
Amazing record. Listen to it regularly.
You get "Euthanasia" by Megadeth, which
Yeah.
is a
I'm not a big Megadeth fan, but interestingly, fun fact, his new single actually got above Taylor Swift for about 2 days. So good for him.
it is good for him. You get "Giant Robot" by Buckethead, and you get this was a
Wow.
big album coming up here. "No Quarter," Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. That was a huge one.
That's a great record. That was massive.
Huge one. Here's another great compilation, and it had a couple new tracks on it as well that became hits. "Fields of Gold: The Best of Sting" from 1984 to 1994. Another big compilation that sold really well, and that was
I owned it.
yeah.
I owned that album. Yeah, because of Lethal Weapon 3 soundtrack, I became a Sting fan.
No, there's nothing wrong with liking Sting, man. I mean, Sting and the Police. I mean, Sting's awesome. We're Sting is very friendly to us on this show. So
Yeah.
then "A Low Down Dirty Shame," and "Endless Summer," Donna Summer's greatest hits compilation.
Oh, that's big.
Tracks.
I bet that's big.
I know you were listening to that big. I know you were listening to that back in the day. You're a huge Donna Summer fan.
Massive.
Here's one that did really, really, really well, and I even went to the tour for this one. My mom and I went to this tour when it popped up in Mobile, one infamous night in our lives. The "Hell Freezes Over" tour, the Eagles. This was a huge.
Oh, that album's massive.
Huge. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
And it brought the whole band back together, and they went out on this big tour, and they ended up in Mobile at the Mobile Civic Center. And,
Crazy.
And yeah, we went and saw it, and it was glorious. And
for those of you who don't know, just in case, just to set, this is why this is big. That's one of the biggest bands, and they're huge, right? Mobile used to get big bands, and then there was like this big thing that happened 92, 93, where we lost access to all this music, and music just didn't come to Mobile. Even though Mobile is the intersection of I-10 and I-65, almost every band has to come through our city, but we lost it all. The fact that the Eagles played in Mobile, that was a big deal. Big deal. Huge deal.
Sold out. It was massive. It was a massive evening. It was like a huge event. Like, people really wanted to go to that. And my mom ended up 4 or 5 tickets with a bunch of friends that she either passed away or she no longer talks to.
Right.
It was fun.
Well.
So anyway, also coming out, it wasn't as big album as that, but Big Audio released "Higher Power."
There we go.
Mick Jones and the Big Audio Dynamite guys, and for us, Soy Marian Axeman lovers.
Yeah.
And then we got "Still Climbing" by your band Cinderella.
You douche. Is that not Is that not the band that shows up in that in Peacemaker? Is that not the band from Peacemaker? Isn't it
Cinderella.
Cinderella that he's obsessed with? I think he's obsessed with Cinderella in that show.
I
Yeah,
used
yeah.
I liked Cinderella back when I lived in New Jersey back in the '80s. Back in that '86 to '89. That's like when they were really really good. Yeah, so I was huge into them then. Here's somebody you liked. You were listening to her a lot. You loved her. More Pink, the B sides, Tori Amos. You were
Let's
huge.
be honest,
What's that?
ladies and gentlemen. He right now. What you can't see is the sarcasm dripping from his face.
So here is a huge album. This is a massive album. Everyone's heard. There's not a person alive on this planet right now that hasn't heard at least one song from this album. Crazy, Sexy, Cool by TLC.
Oh yeah, for sure,
That
for
was
sure.
a huge album. People can admit to not liking that album. People can admit to not liking TLC, but they're liars. They're liars. They are liars.
I will.
They're like the people out there. I mean, this album sold. This was a diamond status record. Okay,
Crazy.
it sold over 23 million copies. So I don't want to hear
Unbelievable.
anybody tell me they didn't like it because somebody's buying this record.
It's like
20
Nickelback
million
fans.
copies.
Yeah.
That's
Was that Waterfall? Is
yeah,
Waterfall on that one?
that's their huge big album, man. It's got everything on it. Like they had like 25 hits from that record. Yeah, that's what I mean. They were around before then, but that's really kind of what launches them. They have like 7 massive hits off that record. Yeah. Duets 2 by Frank Sinatra. Where he does all the
I remember that.
duets. Yeah, that's cool. Tickle by Method Man.
Oh man, that's good stuff. That's old school stuff.
That's a good record too. And the Black Album by Prince, which was actually
Oh
recorded in
yeah.
mid '80s, but of course Prince is known for having a vault of thousands, thousands, and thousands, maybe even millions of songs that were unreleased. Would just release them whenever he wanted to. Bootlegs and B sides by Ice Cube, another compilation, of course. And here's Aerosmith putting out Box of Fire, which was like a box set. So they put out big ones earlier in the month, and then they put out a massive box set. So you gotta rebuy their stuff again.
Yeah,
So there
brilliant.
was 4 million people who bought the big ones, and then they released a box set. So now those 4 million people are like, "Come on, man, really? Like now we gotta rebuy this stuff again."
What a cash grab. Cash grab.
Cash grab. And here's one. Now don't tell me you didn't listen to this. Don't you tell me you didn't listen to this. Don't lie to me. Now don't you lie to me. I'm telling you, you're smiling now, but don't you lie to me, man. Miracles, the holiday album. Kenny G, Christmas album.
Okay, I did listen to it. That's
You did
accurate.
listen
It
to
was
it.
played in my house. It was played in my house. There's no way. My mom loved Kenny G. There's
Yeah.
nothing I could do about it. Him and that flute. It was like a Pied Piper for me. Like I would just get sucked into Kenny G's world.
Yeah, don't tell me you didn't listen to that album because I know you did. You also listened to this
Unfortunately.
Vitology, Pearl Jam.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I'll say
You weren't a big Pearl Jam fan. I think you didn't care. This had a couple of good tracks on it, and this is my last purchased Pearl Jam album, by the way.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason I was telling a friend of mine, and he may or may not be listening. He listens to the show, but he's not he doesn't listen every second of the day. But everyone else should. Everyone else should be listening all the time. But my buddy Pat Priest, he was a big Notre Dame fan. He when I was in South Bend a few weeks ago, we were talking about Pearl Jam, and I was like, man, I have never owned a Pearl Jam record in my life. I liked Pearl Jam. They were fine. They were good. But I knew so many people that owned their records that if I really wanted anything from them, I could just have somebody dumb me a tape.
Yeah, fair.
It was easy they were easy access, and it was like, why spend? I mean, we had a finite amount of money. in 1994. You know, like, why am I buying this record when I can go across the street? Drew Hall owns it. You know what I mean?
Fair point. You're not wrong. I remember that when it came in a paper sleeve, like a fold out sleeve. It was a different time. They were being progressive in their album art.
And plus, you know, they got played all the time on the. We were listening to like TK 101, and they were played all the time on that
Yeah,
station.
them and Glycerine, also Glycerine,
Which is
also
my
true,
favorite Bush song. Come to the Dark
and
Side.
also and also Lightning Crashes. That was also played all the time in that same window.
Another band who, you know, has one song that you don't like, impugn the entire band for it.
Well, he's also an asshat. At least Gavin's a good dude.
That was
The
a good
dude
dude.
from Live is a jerk. So fair enough.
Let's see what else we got here. We got The Impossible Bird by Nick Lowe. I love Nick Lowe. I do, man. He's awesome. The guy I met when he came to St. Louis. I met him. He was just a splendidly nice guy. He's a really sweet dude. And then here's another Drew Hall favorite, My Life by Mary J. Blige. Drew
Yeah,
Hall,
not my jam.
big Mary J. Blige fan. And then
Not my jam.
we finish out with you know, one of the maybe the greatest band of all time, live at the BBC, the Beatles, recorded from 1963 to 1965.
I did not realize that's when that came out because that album. What's interesting about like big ones for me in my memory, so we know how good this is. This is I would never be able to make it in a expert witness, but big ones kind of got me more into Aerosmith because my mom wasn't really into rock music, so I didn't have like her era bringing me over. So big ones got me into rock music. I add that album, and then my parents liked the Beatles, and so they had this record, and it's what introduced me to the Beatles, and I didn't appreciate it till later on in life because they were always my parents' music, and I was one of those kids that was a stereotype. But like that record is really good. It's a really good album.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Classic.
And it's like every time the Beatles did stuff live too, they would, you know, throw in like covers and things like that as well.
Yep. Yep.
Just a fun band. I mean, they were just great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what a good look. It's a holiday episode because we got to say this episode comes out on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to you, Tony, and your family. I've brought my wife to your house for Thanksgiving before. It's one of my favorite Thanksgivings of all time. It was delightful. And Sarah to this day will still admit that your mom has these potatoes, and we talk about them. I know I've talked about them on the show, but Sarah still brings them up.
Yes.
One of the mashed potatoes that she makes, I swear to you, they're the best I've ever had in my life. But like that entire meal was great, and your family was so kind to take us in when we were kind of, you know, we weren't going home and we lived in Columbia, and it's a very core memory for me, very important. So I'm very grateful. So thank you for that Thanksgiving, but happy Thanksgiving make sure you tell your family and also to our listeners, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be should be a fun time. It'll be although it will be our first Thanksgiving without my uncle, who would always come over.
Yep.
Uncle would always come over, so we're gonna miss him, of course. But we intend to still have a lot of the favorites on hand, and you know, nice feast for everybody. And yeah, I mean, happy Thanksgiving to you, buddy, and happy Thanksgiving to all our listeners. And we hope the holiday season's great.
Yeah. And one last little thing, because my wife works in retail and she goes to work Thanksgiving night at midnight. For the love of God, please be nice to the people that work in retail on Black Friday. They have families. Now, because of your need to get cheap televisions, I have to take care of my children, you sons of bitches. Happy Thanksgiving.
Later. Peace.